All right, good evening. Thank you all for joining us today. This is Palmdale Water District's public meeting for the draft local hazard mitigation plan discussion. So tonight we will be presenting the draft version of the local hazard mitigation plan to all of you. I'm Judy Shea, the Public Affairs Director for Palmdale Water. And back in May, if you joined us, we had a Let's Talk event that talked about how we were going to put together this plan. And we also had a lot of you, which was wonderful. All of you did our survey. A lot of you did our survey. So what we did was we took the results of the survey and put it into this draft. And tonight we're going to be presenting that to you. It's going to be available on our website so that you'll have more time to look at it. Tonight really is a shortened version of what you'll see on the website. And let me introduce Adam Lee. He's our Assistant General Manager. He's been heading this project that's been going on for quite a while, and hopefully we'll finish it soon. So I'm going to turn it over to Adam Lee, Assistant General Manager for Palmdale Water District.
Well, I'm Adam Lee. I'm the Assistant General Manager for Palmdale Water District, as well as the project manager for this particular project. So we spent well over 7 months going through the various documentation we have and having HDR helping us gather all the information. And what you have, like Judy said, this is a shortened version. The actual write-up is much longer than that. It has all the detail of what was analyzed, as well as what the survey that we did to gather all that information and collectively put it into this document. And this document will serve as a hazard mitigation plan and for also future funding through FEMA, so then we can actually utilize that to improve the system, basically to mitigate some of the hazard that is there on this thing. And so tonight, Dean is going to give you an overview of what is in the draft. The draft will be available online, and if you have any questions, please contact us, and then you can also come back and join us in end of August for our next presentation, in a sense, the next iteration of the comment and the draft, and we'll finalize it at that time, and we'll bring it to our board sometime in September, October to get it approved, and that becomes a documentation to FEMA. And now I'm going to turn it over to Dean Gibson, who's representing HDR on this project. Go ahead, Dean.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Judy. So my name is Dean Gibson with HDR, and joining me tonight is also Ulysses Martinez, who's been assisting us with this project. So tonight, we're going to go over about 6 different things. We've already done the introductions, but we're going to give you an overview of the local hazard mitigation plan and the different sections within that document. If you have comments or questions, we're going to be taking questions at the end, but you can also type them into the chat box as you think of them so that we keep them fresh, and then we'll go over those at the end. So I'll just go ahead and jump right into it right now. So the next section we're going to talk about is the purpose of the local hazard mitigation plan. So why do utilities and municipalities prepare mitigation plans? Is to reduce the amount of time and effort it takes in addressing those hazards, and to be able to return to providing services in a rapid manner. So for Palmdale Water District, if you look at this graphic here, there's a disaster that happens. They're going to be able to respond, recover, and mitigate those hazards and be able to serve you. And hopefully it'll be minimize the outage, or in fact, most times you won't even notice that there's been an issue and you'll continue to use your service. So to encourage utilities and municipalities to prepare a local hazard mitigation plan, Congress passed the Disaster Mitigation Act in 2000. And this act authorizes the Federal Emergency Management Agency, also known as FEMA, to prepare guidance documents and helping utilities to prepare and update their local hazard mitigation plans. So communities use these documents to demonstrate that they've considered most of the common hazards that can impact their communities, and to develop a plan to mitigate and recover from these hazards. This also makes the utility eligible for funding and helps to save the ratepayer money in the long run. So why do we need a local hazard mitigation plan? Well, it's for a variety of reasons that are shown here, but it mainly prevents the loss of life and injury and protects the public safety. It also can make our communities safer and more disaster resilient. But it also helps to offset the increasing costs for response and recovery of responding to hazards. And what are some of those reasons for increasing the cost for responding to disasters? Well, they're shown here, and they include things like increase in population in communities, in the community growth. It also includes more infrastructure and buildings that can be in our service areas. There's also more natural disasters that are caused by increasing changes in climate change. And there's also human caused hazards such as cybersecurity breaches. So Palmdale wants to be ready to quickly respond and reduce these impacts from these hazards. So let's give you an overview of what is in the Palmdale Water District's draft local hazard mitigation sections. So the document consists of 7 sections, which are listed here, and we're going to walk through each one of these sections to give you an overview of what you'll find in there when you review the document. Section 1 is an introduction of the whole overall document, and the purpose is to reduce the long-term risks to people and property from either natural, man-made, and technological hazards. These hazards are going to be similar to the City of Palmdale's local hazard mitigation plan, which they're also in the process of updating, but we needed to be able to be specific to the Palmdale Water District and some of the different hazards that we need to be able to address. Palmdale Water District did receive a FEMA grant back in April of 2020 that's helping to pay for this work. And part of that grant is we need to complete this process by October 23rd, 2022. And with your help, we're going to be actually ahead of that process. So section 2 is the planning process, describes the planning process. It describes the process of what we're using and following to update the district's existing local hazard mitigation plan. And it also has engaged a core planning team that we've met with on a monthly basis. It also describes the process of how we're engaging stakeholders, such as this outreach meeting tonight. And then it also describes the strategy and actions of how we're going to be able to successfully implement the local hazard mitigation plan. Section 3 provides an overview of the Palmdale Water District system. So established in 1886, the district has grown to about 187 square miles, and that's what's shown here on the blue on the map. The district serves approximately 126,000 individuals. The water sources that provide water for you to use come from the Little Rock Reservoir, imported water from the State Water Project that fills Lake Palmdale, and groundwater sources. Section 4 provides an overview of the capability assessment of the district. It describes how the district goes about its planning and capital programs and what regulatory requirements they have to meet. It presents the governing authority granted to the district, the ordinances and the regulations that give them the authority to do and provide you water. And it also outlines the district's organization, their administrative, technical, and fiscal capabilities. Now, section 5 is where we start to get into the meat of the document. And section 5 describes the hazards that are applicable to Palmdale Water District. And under each hazard, we provide a description of the hazard, a history of the impacts that the hazard has had on the area and to the district. What are the areas that are the locations that are impacted by that particular hazard? What are the extents that we might be able to expect from that particular hazard? And then it provides the probability of future events and the magnitudes of those hazards so we can start to get an understanding and of the risk associated with each hazard. And that's what's going to help us to develop the mitigation measures. So what are the hazards? Through the workshops and input from the public, we've been able to identify 11 hazards of concern for Palmdale Water District. I'm going to walk through those hazards now. They are earthquake, drought, dam failure, extreme weather, which could be high winds, flooding, extreme heat events, extreme cold events. There's also wildfire, debris flows, algae bloom, which also includes waterborne diseases and water contamination. There's criminal activity that we need to mitigate against. That includes things like terrorism and civil unrest. There's cyber attack, cybersecurity breaches to be able to prevent, power failures, public health emergencies such as a pandemic. And finally, there's hazardous materials and hazardous spill incidents that we need to be able to protect against. Another area that we'd like you to be able to focus on during your review is section 6, which is the mitigation strategies. And this section provides an overview of what's in this section, the goals of the local hazard mitigation plan, and then the next steps of how we're going to identify those mitigation actions and help the district to implement them. So you can see on this slide that the last two bullets, the mitigation action implementation plan and incorporation of these into other plans, is in progress. And after we get all of the input, we'll be able to finalize these sections. But let's go through each of these sections in a little more detail. So there's 5 areas or 5 goals, and they're to protect the life and property and reduce the potential injuries from natural or anthropogenic hazards. The next one improves the public's understanding, support, and need for hazard mitigation measures. Number 3, elevate the disaster resilience for the district's natural, existing, and future environment. Number 4, hone the partnerships and collaborating efforts to implement hazard mitigation activities. And finally, number 5, improve the district's ability to immediately and effectively respond to these hazards. So let's go through these in a little more detail, starting with the goal number 1. And you'll see this in the draft hazard mitigation plan. Would identify the goal. We've identified several actions for each of the goals and described them. And then we have mitigation types. And you'll see that there's typically 2 mitigation types. It's a prevention mitigation or a preparedness mitigation measure. Then we try to identify which of the hazards that it actually applies to, and then who within the district is going to help implement that. So when we look at goal number 1, protect the life and property and to reduce the potential injuries, let's just look at the first one there, 1.1. It's describing increasing signage used such as no trespassing sign. So we want to be able to name, the name of the facility will be omitted so we can keep the confidentiality of the district, but we'll also work with the local sheriff and local legal counsel to make sure we've got the right signage. This is a prevention mitigation type to keep criminals away from our locations and our facilities. And you can see that the related hazard is criminal activity. And the group that's going to be implementing it is the operations division within the Palmdale Water District. Moving on to goal number 2, which improves the public understanding, support, and the need for hazard mitigation measures. We've identified 3 potential action items. And if you look at the second one there, 2.2, which is to include hazard education, such as making sure the public has earthquake kits and that we're prepared for any types of earthquakes. And we can do that through using inserts in the district's water bills and on the websites. Again, the mitigation type is a preparedness mitigation. This one is specific to the earthquakes hazard, and the administrative division of the organization is going to help us implement that. For goal number 3, which is elevate disaster resilience for the district, we've identified 6 different action items. And looking at 3.4, which is regularly train, drill, and exercise staff on the emergency response plan and on specific disaster scenarios. This is a preparedness mitigation type, and it actually applies to all of the hazards we've identified for the district. And to make this successful, all of the departments within the district are going to help implement this particular action item. So goal number 4, which is to hone partnerships and collaborating efforts to be able to implement the hazard mitigation activities. So far, we've identified 2 action items. The first one, 4.1, is to continue dig alert programs to ensure contractors mark where pipes are located so we don't damage any of the underground infrastructure that actually exists with the district, reduces costs for repairs and outages. It's a prevention or a mitigation type prevention. This one also helps, and it's related to water contamination, to avoid water contamination. Our operations department is going to help implement that. The 5th goal, which is to improve districts' ability to immediately and effectively respond to hazards. We've identified 7 action items for this last goal. And if we just take one, for example, 5.6, consider training employees in the pandemic and influenza procedures. This is a preparedness mitigation type, and it actually impacts the pandemic or the health hazard that we've identified. And it's going to help all the employees to be able to better respond and do their jobs on a daily basis. So all of the departments are going to be involved in this. So these were just some examples of what you'll be able to review and look at and comment on for us, so we make sure we get your input on these different types of mitigation strategies. Finally, the last section of the local hazard mitigation plan is section 7, which is monitoring and evaluation. This section will document the processes the district will be able to use to monitor and update their local hazard mitigation plan. And it'll help provide operations supervisors and department managers documentation of what those mitigation plan measures are, the hazards are, so that they're able to quickly reference them when needed. Finally, it'll also help the district to set up its schedule for their 5-year update of their local hazard mitigation plan. And finally, this section lays out how the public will be able to continue to provide input, because it's a valuable aspect of this project, this process. So that's a lot of information, and I'm sure you're eager to look at the document itself. So how do you get access to it, and how do you provide your comments? The local hazard mitigation plan, the draft, is going to be available from Tuesday, July 27th, yesterday, through Thursday, August 26th, 2021, which is about a month from now. You can access the local hazard mitigation plan digitally by clicking this link. And this link is also available on the district's website. If you go to news, you'll find a news release that'll actually have the link in there for you as well. Or you can also call the district at the number shown on the screen to reserve a copy to go pick up at the district headquarters. Once you've been able to identify and come up with comments, we hope that you provide them to us, and your comments can be emailed to us to our communications director, Judy Shea, at her email address, which is jshea@palmdalewater.org. So as we wrap up on the presentations part of this, we just wanted to give you an overview of the schedule of where we're at. Adam talked briefly about this at the beginning. We kicked off this project back in February of 2021. We've been meeting on a regular basis with the local planning team and stakeholders to be able to develop this document. And then there, shown in the yellow, is our first public meeting, which is today, which we're holding right now, and then the month-long open public comment period on the draft mitigation document. At the end of the open review period, we are going to have another public presentation on August 26th. That meeting is scheduled currently right now from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Depending on how things go, we're planning to be in person and virtual that day. And then we hope to get all the comments in by the end of the day, midnight on August 26, 2021. So that's our presentation and overview of this document. Now we are available to answer your questions. If you have questions, hopefully you can type them into the chat. Or if you can't think of any now, we'll still be available. You can email questions to us and we'll do our best to answer them throughout the public review period.
Dean, I don't think we have any questions so far.
Okay.
We're still waiting to see. Laura's manning it, but so far it doesn't look like any.
That's not a problem. It usually takes a little bit of time for people to think and type.
Mm-hmm. We'll give them a couple more minutes. Okay, so we do have one question, and it says, is the draft available on the main homepage? So I guess I can answer that question. It's not on the main homepage, but if you go on the slideshow right on top of our main homepage, you can click on that and it'll take you directly to the draft. So Dean, will you be joining us in person on August 20th, 26th?
Yes.
Okay.
So my intention, and if all things go as planned, which they always do, right?
Yes.
I will be there in person. So I always find that these are a little awkward virtually. So I think we get usually a better response when we're in person, right?
Right. It's nice to see people because right now you and I are just talking into our computer screens.
Exactly.
I think another question's coming through, but it takes Laura a minute to get it to me, so, or a few seconds. Yeah. So nothing so far. Yeah, so I think what, we can close out soon, but I would really like to invite everybody out there to come, and join our August 26th meeting. It's from 3 to 4 here at the district or online as a webinar. And our address is 2029 East Avenue Q in Palmdale. So I think maybe we will serve some refreshments for people if they show up and really get to meet them in person. And that way, I'm sure, Dean, you'll get a lot more questions. So come prepared for a lot of questions from the public.
We'll be ready.
Yes, we will. We've been planning for this. Any other questions, feel free to contact me anytime. My email address again is jshay, JSHAY @palmdalewater.org, or call me directly at 661-456-1041. So And if no one else has any other questions, we've ended a little bit early and everyone can go home and enjoy their evening. Thank you so much for your time, Dean. Really appreciate it. And look forward to meeting you in person in a month.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.